Thanks very much for tuning in again. I'm glad we get a chance to connect and talk more about tZERO's strategy. Last time we spoke, we delved deeper into our strategic priorities that build off our values around innovation, speed, results, transparency, and community. And then we talked about our strategic priorities that really look at a couple of themes. First and foremost, partnerships and relationships, and how in our digital environment in particular, touching every part of the chain yourself is not a recipe to success, and how we're going to be focusing on building or rebuilding, in some cases, partnerships and relationships in the ecosystem to drive our strategic growth. We talked about themes of supply and demand. We talked about themes of user experience towards a multi-asset environment. We talked about themes of transparency and engagement. And last, we talked about growth optionality and how tZERO's footprint could be used to drive further strategic growth, including its potential footprint as a public company. Today, I'm going to take a few minutes and dig deeper into the partnership theme. As I mentioned, that is a key aspect of our plan to leverage growth in our community, which again, as I said, has been dealing with a period of tailwinds after a long period of political and regulatory frustration in the United States. And the themes around partnership really aim to address tZERO's position as a company in the United States dealing with regulated securities tokenization. While we've built, I would argue, leading regulatory stack in the US around raising that type of capital, trading that type of capital, and we have the leading tokenized securities ATS in the US by a number of metrics, as well as custodying that capital, one of only two special purpose broker-dealer licenses that allows us to maintain our own wallets on chain. We don't have to send it to an external good control location. That ecosystem, of course, has been growing slower compared to other digital asset industries, whether you look at crypto, whether you look at ecosystems outside of the United States. And so as we look to leverage the power of relationships to address these concerns, these are the 6 pockets we're going to be looking at. Number 1, partnerships to drive supply. Those can fall into a number of buckets, and you saw some early examples of that with our partnership with Alpha Ledger. That's going to bring some private assets to our platform. It's also going to bring some ideation around our public markets footprint, and I'll touch on that in a second. The second priority is partnerships around demand and liquidity. Creative native demand on the platform is a very difficult process. And while there is a virtuous synergy between bringing supply on board, particularly supply from established companies, take the announcement we had last week around working with late-stage tech companies in Silicon Valley, for example, and how they come with built-in stakeholder ecosystems that can then augment our broader investor profile on our platform. Generally, organic growth is a very specific project. And you cannot grow supply, you cannot grow products without at the same time and each time consciously and deliberately working on demand and liquidity. And so that's going to change. You're going to see very specific initiatives that are looking to bring external participants. They could be external participants in the brokerage industry who would come and subscribe to our ATS and our special purpose broker-dealer correspondent custody that we now offer. There could be participants from non-securities ecosystem, including crypto and other digital assets, who are looking to diversify the offerings for their customers and want to integrate with us for assets that we have and will have available on our ATS and our unique end-to-end broker-dealer solution for tokenized securities in the US. It could be other initiatives, including internal initiatives that feed this, including 24/7 trading that we talked about before in our journey to continue to get closer to that, given the promise of digital assets. The third focus is infrastructure partnerships in terms of building global follow the sun rails. As I mentioned, digital assets really have the promise of 24/7 global offering. Countries are fragmented. They'll continue to be fragmented. People talk about convergence, and that's very positive. There's some good sandbox experiments, including in the US and the UK, but that project is going to continue to play itself out. Just as an FYI, people have been talking about regulatory convergence for decades. And so the solution, we believe, is continuing to build follow the sun rails that privately will develop a global infrastructure belt that will support the 24/7 global promise of digital assets, much how what Intranet did for data and voice, for example. And you will see announcements around our integration with and partnerships with non-US market participants in a range of geographies that we are going to be putting in place. The next partnership priority really looks at, again, the infrastructure space and the global space, and then asks yourself a question that as we get deeper into non-security digital assets, including crypto, and as we look at global rails, including DeFi, what can we do? I talked about last time that partnerships with layers 1 and 2 are important, and we're going to be very involved in that. We're not going to be handicapping the protocol wars. We're going to have a true cross-chain environment and a set of integrations and relationships. And those relationships are going to be strategically relevant. They can bring more assets to our platform. They can be financially relevant as well. And in addition to layer 1s and 2s, there are also partnerships and integrations with wallet providers, with vault wrapper providers, and others. Of course, in addition to that, as I said before, the tZERO chain idea, our own layer 2, is still very much a part of that, and we'll be looking for ways to develop and launch that in a way that's strategically appropriate, financially appropriate, and gets us maximum result in a fast-moving space where we believe, again, that partnerships with existing providers are very important. The fifth topic is infrastructure around institutions. I talked about before how being institutional connective tissue, not just direct to retail, is important. Our Link project is an example of that. It's for now an institutional platform, of course, has a promise of being a retail settlement and payment rails as well, with very unique securities-based stablecoin alternative that can pay real yield and is coupled with a market-winning front end for real-time settlement. And there are other pockets of collaboration that you'll see that will fall in that platform that will allow us, again, to be institutional connective tissue. And the last pocket I'll talk about is public markets infrastructure. We talked about tZERO's birth, in a sense, having come out of thought exercises around improving public markets, particularly public equities markets, and how blockchain technology and smart contract automation can do that. Politics and regulatory challenges sideline that conversation, but as you've seen in the last few months, that has changed, and we will remerge on that platform, not just from an advocacy perspective, and you saw how our partnership with Alpha Ledger, for example, envisions us continuing to capture the mind share in that conversation, but also rolling out products around tokenization of public equities, about other uses of blockchain technology in public capital markets, whether it's around voting or other corporate actions or other activities, and whether it's around using our patent application portfolio. A lot of it goes far back in time, and a lot of it touches use of blockchain technology in public markets, including a range of use cases such as funds like ETFs and other products, as well as multi-asset and crypto-based marketplaces, and to build products using that set of assets. So all of that is going to flow into continuing to provide an aggressive and active transparency and PR focus on tZERO's place in the marketplace that we will recapture and will continue to lead, again, while leveraging these types of relationships. So I hope to talk to you more next time. As I said, we'll continue to refine the footprint of these conversations in terms of format, in terms of audio-visual presentation, in terms of other people within tZERO and outside of tZERO that are part of our evolving family and set of relationships that I hope you'll hear from. Until then, thank you very much.